Hello to all the TBR members. So this is chapter 2 of the series I called GTO Plus, looking at the game through the optimal lens. So we were ready to build our tree. We input ranges for both players here, and we input a board, and now we're ready to just click on build tree. So basically, when you click on this, you will be presented with two windows here. Let's go over this one here, the first one. There is two tabs in it, the cash game and the sit and go tab. To be honest with you guys, the last time I played a sit and go was probably in 2007 on Party Poker. So I won't go over these tabs here because I'm never playing sit and go, so I didn't explore this tab, but it should be really simple, I think. And if you go over this after the video I will make this one here, you'll probably figure this thing out, I'm pretty sure. So let's just concentrate on the cash game tabs here. So our formation is big blind versus button open, and button open 3x, the small blind folds, and the big blind called. And now we have those four boxes here: starting pot, effective stacks, rake in percentage, and the cap on the rake. So here, the starting pot, you can basically enter any numbers. You want to convert in big blinds, you can enter in, your number in terms of big blinds. Yes, KG, we can do this. Or you can also input any money number if you want. So let's just say, for example, we are in a 1-2 live game, button open 3x, so it should be 6. The small blind folds is $1, and big blind calls, so it's a pot of 13. You just click on this box, enter 13. And normally, if it's a game of 100 big blind deep, now the effective stacks should be 194. So we could type this here. So this is a way to do this. Since I play online, I do the opposite. But for now, let's just keep the, since this video will probably be watched more by a player who play live, I will leave it to this, but normally I would just input my numbers with converted in big blinds if you want. So once you have done this, you can enter the rake percentage if you know it, and what is the cap, but let's just leave this thing as it is right now for the purpose of the exercise. And once you have input the starting pot and the effective stacks, we can move over here, and we have three tabs: the basic tabs, the rebuild, and the advanced. I will explain the rebuild later on, maybe not in this video, but maybe in a future one. But I will explain the basic and the advanced. And the basic tab in here, it is just to make a really simple tree. So basically what it is, it's the number of bets you want to use before shoving your whole stack. So for example, if we are the button and we are the preflop aggressor, big blind check, we see bet, he call, we are on the turn, he check, we see bet, he call, and we are on river, he check, and we shove our whole stack here. So you would choose 3-bet to just use a line which is the bet line. But let's just say, for example, that we big blind check, we bet, he raise, we re-raise, he call, we go on the turn, he check, we bet, he call, and we go on the river, he check, we shove. So that could be a scenario here. And this is mainly what it is. So it will give you a really basic tree, but I don't use this option. I think it's a more efficient way to go with the advanced tab, because you can enter very precise information, and this is what the software is all about. So it could be, it is something that when you want to glance over a strategy really quickly, you can use the basic tab, but I encourage you to go with the advanced there. So when you click on the Advanced tab, as you can see, we have two windows. The one on the left is the out of position settings for the out of position player. and on the right it is for the in position player. And the first thing you'll notice is those things here, default settings. Let's start with the in position player, which is the button. There is this option here, default bet. And basically what it is an option where when you forgot to enter a bet size on any particular street or decision point, the solver or the software will use your default bet that you input here. By default, it is at 75% of the pot. And since 50% or 75% of the pot is still commonly used sizing live and online, what I do is I just average both and I enter 66 here, which is an average of 50 and 75. But you can basically enter any number in here. So let's just put this for the in position and let's just put this for the out of position player here. Let's go back here. We have this option here, which is with only 2 bets left, get the money in smoothly. I will try to be very, to explain this very accurately and with a few words to be just clearer. Let's say we are on the turn as the aggressor. The pot is $100 and we have $120 left. So let's just say, for example, that it is checked to us, and now we decide to bet like 75% of the pot, right? So if we were to bet 75% of the pot, we would bet $75, obviously, because the pot is $100. So it would be a pot of $270 on the river if we are called, and we would have $45 left. So it would be a really small bet into a big pot, and basically with that sizing we don't have fold equity. Villain is incentivized to call a lot and stuff like that. So logically we would try to size down our bet on the turn to be able to have a decent sizing on the river also. We could shove, obviously, but the point is that this option, what it will do is whenever the solver is on a decision point and he is about to look at the expected value of bet size, and those sizes are the one that the user have input in the solver. And he's looking at the size and he just realized that if he use any sizes that are input on the decision point, and that by using those sizes he will land on the next street with a very, very small bet size, he will just ignore what the user have input as bet sizes, and he will try to average 2 bet sizes that would make sense, in fact. So he would, if for example in my example where the pot is 100 on the turn, and the only option for the solver is a 75% pot size bet, it would just, and with $120 left, it would just ignore the 75% pot size bet and probably design something along $60, a 60% pot size bet, or maybe a bit less, like a half pot bet, in fact, $50. And he would shove the $70 left on the river, something like that. So he will just try to split the stacks in 2 logical bet size if you want, the one that make the best TV for hero. So this is precisely what this option is doing. You can, when you use this option, generally it will make your tree a lot less CPU intensive to solve and a bit smaller in terms of file size, in fact. And I will show you this later on. The other option here is the add all-in if push less than 120% of the pot. So this option is the commitment threshold, the leverage point, if you want, for the solve for wire. And this is let's just take, for example, the example I just used. The pot is $100 on the turn. We have $100 left on the turn. So basically we are under 100% of the pot, because 100%, 120% of the pot on a $100 spot on turn is $120. So whenever you find yourself on a street and you have less than the commitment threshold you just put here, the solver will ignore any bet sizes option that you gave him, and he will just shove. So this is how this thing works here. And if you move over the out of position settings, you got one option more here, which is don't bet out of position if you have been passive so far. So this is an option where you will use this when you are expecting the caller to be passive out of position, in fact, like in this scenario. Usually, we can pretty much understand that a good player will have a dunking range, probably. Optimally, it should in fact, as a big blind. But generally, when the big blind is calling, generally we can expect him to check a lot on the flop. And when you just click this here, it will just check 100% of his range. And it simplifies the tree, in fact, because you remove an option for the out of position player. Because let's just look right now. If we go here, memory needed for solving is 611 megabyte, right? And if we go and we remove this option, now look here, the out of position player is the first to act, and is the guy with the little circle with number 1 in it, and he check 100% of his range. Now if we remove this option, it will give a check branch and a bet branch. And we had memory needed for solving was at 611 megabyte. Now when we give another option, it's almost double the size here, right? We need now 1 gigabyte. And it makes sense because now you have 2 options, so the tree is 2 times bigger. So just keep in mind that when you remove this option here, your tree will be bigger. But even if you let it on as a default, you can remove it on any other streets where it will make sense, and I will show you why and how to do this. So that's it. Those are the default settings that the solver will use. And now we can open the decision point on every street. So you just click on those here, flop, turn, and river. And we will go with the in position player first. So you will be always presented with 2 scenarios. The scenario 1 is when the out of position dunk into us or bet. And the scenario 2 is when he check to us. In this scenario here, we are expecting him to check 100% of the time. So we will just kind of ignore this box here, which is the raise, the bet from the out of position player on the flop. And we will go on this section here. So in bet, you just enter the number of the sizings you want to use as a strategy or tactics on this flop. And let's just say, for example, that you are a user of the 1/3 c-bet strategy. You would just enter 33% of the pot here. And this is the only option you will use. But if you design a strategy where you will use either 1/3 or 2/3, you could just put it that way. 33% of the pot, 66% of the pot. And keep in mind that the more you input options in any of those boxes, the bigger your tree will be, the longer it will be to solve, and it will be a lot more CPU intensive. So when you have a machine that is kind of limited in terms of CPUs and memory, strip down your scenario or make it a bit simpler and use less bit sizes overall. So we just input our sizing here. Let's say, for example, that the out of position player can check raises, and so we would make the first bet. He would check raise a 2-bet, and if we 3-bet here on this flop, let's say we shove. because we already input some money pre-flop. We now betting the flop. We are check raised. There is quite substantial money in the pot, but we, at this point, if we call, we probably cross leverage point, and we prefer to shove, in fact, when we are check raised on flop. So if we were to 3-bet, we would shove. Let's just enter a number like 200% of the pot where we are probably gonna shove our whole stack here. And if, for example, we're not expecting the out of position player to bet into us, so we will just ignore this section here for now, but maybe not on the turn. So those are our options here. And we move to the flops, the flop options for the out of position player. So we already stated that he won't use the donk bet here. So if he check raise, there is two ways to input the option here. You can go with the percentage. So you can say like he will check raise 55% of the pot, for example. Or you can go with the 4x, 3x, 2x, etc. that you commonly see on forums. So nowadays, I think that 3.5x as the out of position player is a size that is standard. It is used a lot, but we still see a lot of 4x, so we're gonna use 4x here, and it will be the option that the out of position player will use whenever it will check raises on any street. So we can pretty much enter those here for the flop, the turn, and the river. If we bet and he raises us, and we just if we add another option as a 200% pot as a 3-bet, maybe he could 4-bet us, and we could enter a percentage here. But now, since we're gonna shove when we 3-bet, there's no point to enter something here. Now, the interesting thing is, Hero still has the option to check back the flop, right? And in this case, in this scenario, if the out of position check and Hero check back the flop, we land on turn, and now we can edit the default option, which is don't bet out of position if you have been passive so far. Because if we leave this option on for the turn, the out of position player, the big blind, will check again 100% of his range. But now, since Hero check back, it would make sense to give the out of position player the option to dunk into us. And this is precisely what we're gonna do. You see this little triangle, this little blue triangle here? You can click on it, and it just open the default settings that we have go over here. But now you can just edit for the turn, not the flop, not the river, just the turn. And we can remove this option, don't bet out of position if you have been passive so far. And notice that now in this state, the tree needs 746 megabyte to memory, in fact. And when you remove this option here, it goes a bit bigger because we make the tree a bit more complex. And if the out of position player were to dunk into us, we just give him 50% or 75, for example. But to simplify, let's just use 66% of the pot. It will be it will make the tree easier to navigate, in fact, because there will be less branches. And if he dunk into us, 66% of the pot, we can raise him now, and we would go like with the standard 3x here. And basically we can do this for the river also, so we can input this here also. And if we, for example, we c-bet the flop and the big blind check call, we land on turn, he check again his range. And now we could enter our sizes for the turn here, which could be 33, 66, or an overbet of 125. And if he check raises, again, we can just enter 200%. You just need to enter a number that is big enough to make the solver shove your whole stack. So it could be 150% of the pot, or if you input like 500% of the pot, you're pretty much sure that the solver will shove your stack. But don't forget that with this this option here, the add all in if push less than 120% of the pot, at some point in the tree, it doesn't matter what option you input as 3 bet, 5 bets, etc., because you will probably be lower than 120% of the pot, so the solver will just use the shoving option. And on the river, if the out of position player check call again on the turn, we could use 66 or a pot size bet, for example. And let's just say, for example, we see bet the flop. The out of position player check call the flop. We land on the turn. He checks. We check back. We land on the river. Now we're gonna want to give the out of position player the option to dunk, and so we need to remove the don't bet out of position option. So we click on the blue triangle here, remove this here, and we're gonna give some option as dunking, and let's just use a 66% pot size bet again. And that's it. Now we have both strategies designed for both players. All we need to do is click on build tree. It will present a new window. You click on build new tree and you click on OK. Now your tree is just prepared to be solved, in fact. And if for example, this is a scenario or a formation that is pretty common, right? Button versus big blind. In fact, what would change in general are bet sizes or ranges, right? So you could just click on edit profiles here and click add current, enter like for example TBR video, click on accept, and it will save the strategies for both players. You can rename it, delete it, set as default. So whenever you'll open GTO Plus, it will load this particular strategies for both players. You can overwrite any existent saved profiles, and you just click on accept changes here. And notice that in the available profiles here, it will just load this thing here. So you can, let's say for example that I use a default short stack that were already in the software. Notice that some options are clicked off here. There is no bet sizes for any particular streets, etc. And now I just double click on TBR video here. I just reload my tree, and now all my options are there. And I can just yeah, I need to rebuild, I think. There you go. So this is how the edit profiles worked. And there is a little button here, which is either load only out of position, load only in position, or load full profile. So if you leave it to load only out of position, for example, and you close the software, when you'll reopen the software and you use the profiles, it will just load the options for the out of position. Same for the in position, but I think obviously it's better to leave it at load full profile here. So once you're done with this, you can go at run solver here, this button here, and you click on run solver. Now we have a couple options to choose from here. We have two tabs, in fact. We have the basic tab and the advanced tab. I think I will just make a quick video on advanced tab later on, because this is an option you'll use when you want to solve a database, flops database. So you're going to input a lot of flops into a database, and you're going to solve with the particular ranges you gave and the profiles, in fact, with the bet sizes options and stuff like that. So I won't go over this for now. I will certainly do it later on, but let's just concentrate on the basic tabs here, the basic tab. So you got this window here, which is the target deviation for expected value. I will try to make it. I will try to make a clear explanation of this. Let's say, for example, that we use 0.5% here. This is what will be the exploitable percentage of both strategy, in fact. This means that the solver will give an equilibrium for both strategies. but any of the two strategies could be exploited more, in fact, and it could be exploited more by the deviation you'll enter here. So the closer you are to 0, the less you're going to be able to exploit strategies that will be presented by the solver. So obviously, if you go with 0.25%, it will be a lot more accurate than 0.5 here. And if you go with 0.1, it will be a lot more accurate than 0.25 and a lot more accurate than 0.5. Although this is not a really good reason, if you look at what the coaches over the internet use as a deviation, they will use something around 0.25 or 0.30 or something around this. So you could leave it at this. Obviously, you need to know that the closer you make this to 0, the longer the solve will be. And to be honest, I just leave it at 0.5, and it gives you kind of a good glance at the optimal strategy. And some of you guys probably prefer to go with closer accuracy, and that's okay. And I think in particular scenarios, maybe you shouldn't go with the 0.5%, because if you go with the 0.25 or the 0.1, there will be holdings in your ranges that will change a lot. But I think for the purpose of the exercise is the exercise here, we're going to leave it at 0.5%. Now you get this option here where you can enter the number of threads you want to dedicate to your solve, and those are the threads on your CPUs on your computer. I think by default the software GTO Plus recognize the maximum threads you have in your with your CPUs, and it will enter the maximum number here. So for example, my computer here got 16 threads, so by default it just entered 16 here. But I could just say, like, for example, I'm doing other things and I just want to dedicate 10 threads for the solve. You just enter 10 here. Obviously it will be less quick to solve, but it won't slow down your other software if you work with them while the GTO Plus is solving. And we got this option here: the basic storage, the medium storage, and the extensive storage. Basic storage will make very small files, like this one here, 115 kilobyte. I'm pretty sure you younger guys don't know what a kilobyte is, but in my days it was a lot. And if you go with the medium storage, notice that it's going to be around 10 times bigger than basic storage, which is 1 megabyte here. And there will be some more data, in fact more stats that will be included in the file. And mainly on the turn, in fact, because on the turn you can input a lot of cards and it changes the solution. And sometimes you need to just resolve a bit to get a better accuracy. So when you do medium storage, you'll need a lot less resolving, in fact, but you'll still need solving on turns and rivers, but a bit less. And obviously, if you go with the extensive storage, it will give you a file that will be more than 20 times bigger. But now you won't need resolve on turn or river, and it will include all the information you need to have. So when you're just solving a tree, I encourage you to use extensive storage, because it will save you a lot of time when you navigate the tree and look at new turns or river. But if you solve a big database, you can use basic storage, and it will make very small files, in fact. So once you have choose all those options, you just click on Run Solver. And I did it already, so I'm gonna just I'm gonna save this one here, and I'm gonna use this one here. and you click on round solver, in fact, and when you click on round solver, you'll see that the deviation will change here, and this number also, and it will get closer and closer to what you choose as an option here. And once it reached it, probably I should say reaches it, it will stop. So in the next video, I will just open the tree, show you how to navigate into the tree and look for data and results, and I will show you where is the important information, because I think you, maybe for those who never played with a software like this one, you will probably be overwhelmed by the quantity of informations you can have when you open the tree. But don't be afraid. The more you'll play with it, the more you'll know what to look for and stuff like that. So this will be in the next chapter 3, which is navigating the tree. Thanks for watching.